Hello and welcome back to the Essex Allotment Farm. You can see that I'm not on the farm yet again. For the third day running we've had torrential rain. I'll show you the picture now. It means that I can't even get to the farm this morning. Well, I could, but it'd be a long way around, so I've decided I'm going to shoot this video indoors. And I was flicking through my Instagram and other social media accounts this morning and realised that pretty much to the day it's 26 weeks since I got access to my new piece of land on the farm. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to do a 6-month review on exactly what's been going on the farm, what's gone well, what's gone not so well, where my learnings have been, and what I see the next 6 months and maybe a little bit longer looking like. So we're going to jump straight into the video and I hope you enjoy it.
There is a life I lead in this city, hurrying to cut my teeth. I can take what I need to get by, it doesn't make it easy. The other piece of my heart moves slow, somewhere in the great unknown, when I return from the afterglow.
Okay, so for those that are new to my channel or haven't yet subscribed, I'm Alex. I'm now a full-time commercial market gardener. 6 months ago, I embarked on this opportunity to take on some extra land and become a full-scale market gardener, servicing 100 veg boxes a week this season for people local to Essex. I did a successful trial of just 20 veg boxes the season before, and the findings from those just 20 boxes for 22 weeks is what has prompted me to extend my business and effectively make it my full-time job. So we're going to jump straight into the review and what's going to start off with what's gone well. In this first 26 weeks, I started off with a blank field that you'll have seen in the clips below, and I'll chuck one to the side here. And 6 months later, here I am now with 2 blocks built. So one of the first jobs that I needed to do was to build the beds for growing in. Now initially, I wasn't aiming for 100 veg boxes a week. I was perhaps aiming for 50, but things have gone really well in the early stages, and now I'll be building more blocks and more blocks as we get closer to the spring, and I aim to have 6 or 7 ready for the start of spring. What these blocks consist of is 10 beds plus a perennial bed. And the standard bed size is 15 metres long and 75 centimetres wide, which is a standard measurement for a market garden format bed that's very popular across America, Canada and parts of France. So one of the first things that went really well, and I have to mention for this year, and I say a big thank you, is I had a real outreach of volunteers willing to come and help me. So those jobs of setting up those beds, putting down amendments, compost, a wheelbarrow and bucketing wood chips into the paths went really well, but also went really quickly, and I have to say that was down to some of my volunteers. I won't name them, but you know, if you've been to the farm so far, it's a massive thank you, and I couldn't have got to this stage or even thought about extending the amount of veg box I was planning on doing this season without your help, so thank you very much. The block dimensions are working really well in the early stages. So again, if you follow my channel, you'll know that I put in some crops to trial to see how long it would take to plant out beds and how long it would take to for things to grow in the current soil situation, and it helped me realise what amendments I needed to add to the soil. And nearly all of those crops are a success. Yes, I got some findings from that, which we'll talk about in the learnings and things that didn't go so well, just in a few minutes, but as a whole those things went really well. So that block setup, the bed setup, volunteers and those trial crops are one of the real successes from the early stage of the farm. What I should say at the moment is I'm talking about things that have actually physically happened on the farm. Later in the video I'll be talking about sort of the business side of it and stuff, maybe some more of the stuff that happens behind the scenes, and again with some successes and learnings as I go on through the rest of this season and expand the business going forward. The second success that I've sort of pulled out in my notes is the fencing. So because of pests and potential pest issues, whether that be deer, rabbits, badgers, whatever, I decided to erect a 1.5 metre fence. which I did with chicken wire and licked at the bottom. But the major success that I got from this, and it's had loads of great feedback from other allotmenteers or market gardeners across the country, is the decision to put weed membrane under the fence. And lots of people that are a little bit further along in their market garden journey said this is just, reached out and said what a great idea that was. They wish they'd have done it when they started, because now they just spend hours and hours weeding around their fences or having to cut down in between fences and fence posts. So just aesthetically, from that point of view on the farm, that was another plus point, and I will continue that practice as I extend and put more fencing out around the farm. The third sort of thing that I've pulled out of my notes is, again, volunteer based. A guy from a company called Seedcraft, who does a seed subscription box, came and put up my shed for me. Now this shed, again, has been invaluable. It's probably one of those things that you don't think about. You know, I've just hired some space in the field and know that long term I'll need some infrastructure there for packing, washing, etc. But in the immediate, I found it really annoying and difficult to transport everything to and from the farm. So as quickly as I could, I got my shed that I'd already dismantled over from my allotment and put it on the site. And again, the volunteer from Seedcraft came across and helped me put that up, because that's not my bag, and it was a real success point. It just gives me, more than anything, a place to make a cup of tea and shelter from the rain. And now I've got a place that will serve the purpose for certainly for the first 6 months and for the next 6 months. I haven't got this pressure on my shoulder of getting up permanent infrastructure with the spend that comes with that, and you know, the planning and organising it does to build that. And I've got something that will see me through the first year's sort of development on the farm. And then the final success is sort of two-part for the farm so far, and that is that I've planted 1,000 strawberry plants as bare root stock and 1,900 garlic cloves, and the strawberries have taken to the ground really well. They're starting to put on new growth already because of the slightly mild autumn and early winter we've had so far. And the garlics, you know, I would say are at least 95% germination. The shoots have come up in perfect straight lines. Touch wood, so far they haven't been attacked by any birds or pests or mice or anything like that. So it looks like the early stages of my first products to go in the farm for next season, that I will physically be selling to customers through either farmers markets or the veg box service, are going pretty well. Now I understand with garlic and strawberries there's still a hell of a long way to go, but to have such early success sort of shows me that the ground, albeit very clay, is workable, and that plants will take to it with a little bit of work. So yeah, getting those in the ground, a time-consuming job, but out the way. Something happened to my camera there, but yeah, they can just sit dormant as it gets sort of colder, and they'll start to kick on in early spring. So they're the sort of key plus points that I've taken out from stuff that's physically happened on the farm so far. What I've managed to get done is those 2 blocks complete with fencing around the edge. We've started the work on blocks 3 and 4, or C and D as I've been calling them, with the view to having, like I said, 6 blocks before the spring arrives, and I need to be planting out in mass. Obviously there's more than that that's gone on. We've had lots of seed germination and seed starting. As I alluded to, the sort of trial crops and cover crops have gone fairly well, but there has been some early learnings in the sort of farm stage of the development of the business. And when it comes to the farm, there's 2 major ones that I've picked out, and that is the wet weather. So I've talked about this loads if you're familiar with my vlog, but the wet weather's causing me problems to access to the field. Not for me personally necessarily, but as a general rule, getting tractors and trucks into the field when it's been so wet has been fairly difficult. And the second thing that the wet weather's brought is that I've seen that some of the beds as you go across the field have had too much water retention, and I need to put more time into planning what crops I'm planting in which beds on the farm. For example, the onion sets that I put in, stupidly I put them in a bed or a couple of beds that are on sort of like the runoff and drainage sort of pathway, if that's called, the natural sort of pathway that's the rainwater goes on. And what that's caused is for the germination to be really poor, and what I imagine, without really investigating too much, is quite a lot of those onion sets have rotted off. So that's caused me extra work for the beginning of spring, because what I'll have to do is then, you know, around about now, start those again from seed, and they'll be a little bit behind. It's not a complete disaster. Half of each of those 2 beds, as you can see from the pictures that I'm putting up, have germinated and have germinated well. So out of the 550 sets in each bed, I'll probably have a couple of hundred each that will mature into full-size onions. The second learning or problem that I've come across is cutworm. So the great thing that I learned from putting in those crops that I didn't really need to grow, but I just did it as a trial to see what the ground was like, is I discovered that the farm's got a cutworm issue that I need to deal with. So I've been researching organic and natural ways to deal with cutworm, and you know, there's different ways depending on different crops. I'm leaning towards a nematode, beneficial nematode sort of angle to give it a kickstart, but I haven't fully decided on that yet. But what I know is that when I plant in baby plants of the brassica family, salad and lettuce families, at really young stage in the spring, that I'm going to have to treat the beds for cutworms before I plant those plants in. And that was exactly what the thinking was behind planting those trial crops. So I'm really pleased I did it. I'm really pleased that I've discovered that problem now with crops that I can afford to lose. And yeah, I can put that right, ready for the start of next season when I need to start growing those crops for sale. So that's it when it comes to the physical aspect of the farm, actually on site. I think overall I can't moan at all. I've had some issues, yeah, absolutely, weather being a huge part of it, but that's farming, I guess, and being completely new to the industry and only ever being a, you know, a hobbyist grower in the past. That's a learning that, you know, every farmer or everyone that works outside, I guess, has to go through. It's become really prevalent for me this year, but other than that, I don't think there's really, touch wood, been so many issues over the first 6 months. I've achieved quite a bit. I feel like the weather has prevented me from doing a lot more. I feel like I could have had the rest of the blocks built by now if I'd been better organised and got the compost and manures and stuff on site earlier, perhaps at the end of the summer as opposed to waiting till the winter. But the amounts of rain that we've had this autumn and winter have been completely unprecedented in Essex. You know, it's breaking all the records for the amount of rainfall, and so an element of that, yes, there's a learning and it is my fault, but you can't really do much about the weather, and farming commercially on a small scale or a big scale doesn't really matter. It's dependent on you having some luck with the weather. But there's no doubt I can play catch up in the next couple of months and be ready for So I touched on that. I'm going to talk a little bit about how things have gone away from the farm. And again, there's been some real positives. So I just want to say thank you to Penny Red Media, who have put together my website, which has been a huge success. I've worked in a a corporate sort of area background for 14 years, and I am fairly okay when it comes to computers, but putting a website together, it just frightened the hell out of me. And I tried it, you know, for myself over the last sort of year or so, and it just needs someone who knows what they're doing. And so I reached out and I've got some support from Penny Red Media and Kenneth, who I've been working with there, and he's just done a fantastic job on the website. It looks so much better than anything I could have done. Its functionality is so much better than anything I could have done, and it's got the e-commerce element to it, which, you know, scares the hell out of me really, because, you know, when it's dealing with money and people's personal details and stuff like that, I'm immeasurably more comfortable dealing with all that stuff now I know it's been set up by someone that I trust, someone that's a professional, and someone that knows what they're doing. So yeah, I can't thank Kenneth and Penny Red Media enough. But the website itself just serves the exact functionality that I want it to. So that's been a huge success away from the farm and behind the scenes. The next thing I want to talk about is my sign-ups. Now, I opened up for the summer season sign-up, which runs from June to October, on January the 1st. And the reason I did that is because people were reaching out and saying, look, we want to sign up now so we don't miss out. It was perhaps at least a month, maybe a month and a half earlier than I ever planned on doing it, but because I had such a great functioning website, I felt comfortable in doing it earlier and giving some of what are now my customers what they wanted, and that's to sign up and then forget about it until a few weeks before. And the sign up itself is going fantastic. It's early stages, of course. The numbers aren't huge at the moment, but they're so much bigger than I anticipated. A handful of people reached out and said we'd like to sign up now, and so I expected those people, since they requested it, to sign up. But the additional people that have come and signed up outside of those people that requested it specifically, it's just been amazing. And with just about 5 months to go before the veg box season even starts, and with loads of more marketing and PR stuff planned, like market gardens, taster sessions at the drop-off and collection points and stuff like that, I've under no illusions that I will sell out at some point between now and the beginning of the season of those 100 boxes that is my capacity for the first full season on the farm. I'm not going to share the numbers with you completely. It's forever changing, and daily I'm getting people sign up. But at this rate, I'll be sold out in 3 months' time. So I've got a little bit of leeway to not worry and not stress too much about the sign-up numbers. Now, I might have got that completely wrong. It might go dead now completely, and then it might be a hard slog right at the end, just before the season starts, to get people signed up. But I can only go on early indications, and I know there'll be a peak at the beginning, and then it will flatten out, and then there'll be a pickup towards the end. But I'll just finish it by saying the sign-ups are going really, really, really well, and I am so grateful for everyone that's either paid in full or paid a deposit to secure their space, and I really appreciate it, and I cannot wait for you to start tasting some of the vegetables that I'll be growing this season. Another success that I just want to quickly touch on away from the farm is, and this is going to sound really cheesy and corny, but I think it's really, really important with the type of business that I'm trying to create, and that is integrated into the village that I'm renting the land in. So I'm renting a land in a little village just outside of Chelmsford, which is where I live. It's about 10 minutes car journey away from my actual home, and it's a really tight-knit community. There's only, I think I looked online, there's only about just over 1,000 residents in this little village. But the integration into that community has been absolutely fantastic, and I can't thank the people of that village enough. So yes, I've got an absolutely fantastic landlord that I've talked about loads, and his family that live either on or surrounding the farm have just been super accommodating and super helpful with me starting up in the village. But just the general villagers that I'm meeting and some of the contacts that I'm making through Facebook and other Instagram, and then being a presence in the village, have just been fantastic. So where that benefits the whole business is I've found a new drop-off and collection point actually in the village, and that is pairing up with the local school. So I'll be there at kicking out time for the kids on a Friday afternoon in the village, at the village school, primary school, and giving out my veg boxes there and then to anyone that's signed up. But what I'll be doing is having a relationship with the school, educational visits to the farm in a post-COVID world will be an option, and something that me and the head mistress have talked about. And then also using the kids to help with some of the elements of the farm, and really bringing that community vibe to the community supported agriculture scheme that I'm trying to grow here. So that's been one example of the fantastic nature. I've had the biggest amount of sign-ups I've had is in the village. So words got round through social media, through people talking to each other. My landlord is a very prominent member of the community. So, my sign-ups, albeit have been very good in all my locations and different villages around Chelmsford and in Chelmsford Town Centre themselves, the one that is leading the way is in the village, which means I'm having a positive impact on that community of people. And then the final thing is, the connections you make from a rural village are just absolutely fantastic. So I've been able to use some of my social media presence and some of the companies like Power Sheds that I've worked with in the past to supply a shed to the local charitable nursery at a really, really, really great price. Like just the cost of getting there effectively is all they've had to pay. And I can't say thanks enough to Power Sheds for helping me do that and having that impact on that part of the community. But then from a beneficial point of view from me, I've met other farmers that now I've got a constant supply of cow manure when I need it, a constant supply of horse manure from a different farmer when I need it. And there's 2 alpaca farms in the village, or on the outskirts of the village as well. So anyone that grows, that's watching this that grows, knows that alpaca manure is super, super, super effective on any kind of vegetable patch or flower patch. So those connections and relationships that I've made through the village have been invaluable already, and I can only see that they're going to grow in the sort of coming weeks, or coming months, should I say. The final thing that I want to talk about when it comes away from the the farm is my seedling starting and grow light setup. So I'm doing a lot of that on different sites. You can see this is my front room. I've got some underlights in here, and then the garage unit you'll have seen in some of my other videos. And yeah, just that's gone particularly well to start off with. It's the first time that I'll be growing in this kind of bulk. You know, I've got upwards of 400 chili seedlings, for example, across the 2 locations, and it'd be the first time that I'm growing in that kind of quantity, but I've got a clear plan, a clear way of how I'm going to handle them, utilising heat mats, grow lights and space in the garage unit. And again, touch wood, early doors, that seems to be working particularly well. The final part of this video, and the thing that I want to talk about, is what does the next 6 months look like for me, and what does the future plans after that. So if you're wondering why I keep looking down, so obviously I've got some notes down here, but if you've made it this far into this video, you've probably worked that out by now already. So I've got a structured 3-year plan, and again I'm putting some pictures up to accompany all of this, and you'll see a 2D version of what I see the farm looking like in 3 years time. That features 18 blocks, 2 polytunnels, chickens for composting and egg production, an orchard, more perennial beds. So I'm thinking big, as well as a communal area where it would be a more attractive place for volunteers to come and enjoy, as well as some open mornings and, you know, like I said, small group educational visits on the farm, especially around schools and children. You know, so what does that mean for the next 6 months? Well, I know I've got to get the minimum of 6 blocks in total built by the beginning of spring to be able to achieve my first season. And then everything else that I do during this first season becomes a bonus ready for the following spring 2022. But my 3-year plan, as I said, and as you can see, is to have 18 blocks in total, and then the equivalent of 2 more blocks growing space under 2 caterpillar or polytunnels. And that's a huge ambition, and I'm not going to be able to do it without support from all these people I've talked about previously in the video: local farmers for manure and compost supply, volunteers to help me do some of the labouring and working. But that's a clear vision. That plan's 1.33 acres of land, and again I'm going to do a separate video on figures and numbers once I'm underway in my first season. But I've got a clear outline that year 3 it will become a profitable farm, and a good profitable farm in the way that I'm going to do it in the areas that I'll be focusing on, i.e. a veg box service. But there'll be other elements of stuff that goes alongside that, so we'll branch out into other areas, as I've said, you know, other products and things that naturally fit with the farm that will, you know, be part of the long-term business plan. I want to reach out to other local and small businesses and help and support them as much as them helping support me. So I want to grow vegetables and herbs and things like that for specific small businesses. I don't want to go into the wholesale market as a general rule. There's not enough money in it growing on my scale, even at 1.33 acres. There's not enough money in it to make it profitable. But I do want those select few businesses that fit my ethos of sustainability, locality, you know, free from chemicals and pesticides, and really support and work collaboratively with those kind of small businesses and companies to supply vegetables or fruits and bits, but create combined products, you know, things that have an element of the farm and an element of their product. You know, gins and flavoured gins would be an example of that, that's in the very, very early stages. Again, I've talked about some very specific local chefs that I'm working with that, again, fit the ethos, single, independent restaurants, high-end, that fit the ethos of what it is that I'm trying to achieve. So those sort of branches of the Essex Allotment Farm will hopefully develop as the next 6 months to 3 years continues. And then finally, obviously 100 veg boxes will not be my final target. If I've got 18 blocks, you know, I feel that I can do 100 veg boxes off 6 blocks if I get planning and organising right. So therefore, naturally, you can work out that I feel that I can, on that kind of space, do up to 300 veg boxes a week, and maybe branch out to a little bit further afield within the Essex area. So that is my ambitious long-term sort of plans, which, as and when these videos go on, I'll go into in more detail. The final thing that I'll say on my long-term future plans is I do want to continue this feel of being a CSA, community supported agricultural farm. So the start I've made within the village is fantastic, but that has to stay. For that to work, yes, there might be a wider catchment area than just the village I'm in, and I'll look at Essex as a whole, as a long-term ambition, but I want that local community supported project to be the ethos going forward. So yeah, that's all I've got at this stage to really say on ambitions and targets and stuff like that. The final thing that I'm going to end this video on is that YouTube plays a part, and Instagram and social media plays a part in my journey. I love doing these vlogs. They're not always that exciting, they're not always that interesting, that brilliant, but I really enjoy doing them, and I know there's a group of you that enjoy watching them too. So please continue to support my social media sort of journey, or follow my journey on social media. It does mean a hell of a lot to me. It's the support I get outside of Essex, really. So you know, this is never going to be a national project. It's never going to be a you know, this is the Essex Allotment Farm. It will, the actual products and stuff that come out of the farm will stay in Essex, but there will be opportunities for you to support me going forward with other products and bits that come out of the farm. However, aside from all of that, you guys watching my YouTube channel, watching my journey, asking the questions and following what I'm doing really, really helps. And it's great to read your comments, see your likes, talk to you guys on Instagram and YouTube. It just adds another element to the whole thing that I'm trying to achieve, and it's just really, really satisfying to share this journey with you. So please continue. Please continue to give me the supports with the likes and subscribes and everything that comes with it. And thank you so much in advance for all your support in the future. So that's the end of my reviewing video for 6 months. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a lot of information crammed into a small space, and there's a lot of me talking, but I have tried to accompany it with a few photos or bits of footage just to make it easier along to follow, and for anyone that's new. I'll do these as and when I see fit, whether that's another 6 months time or whether that's the end of the veg box season, etc, etc. But thank you so much for following my journey, and I'll see you in my next vlog over the next couple of days.